How many of us in here know someone that has been or is incarcerated right now? Maybe somebody in your family, maybe somebody you should go to school with. Relatively speaking, the prison systems in America are really young, since like the 1820s, and we hold the highest amount of people incarcerated. The highest amount. That is just so awful. In 2005, over 7 million people were on probation, in jail or prison, or on parole at year end of 2005. That's 1 in every 32 American adults. That is awful. I got this information from the corrections statistics that's provided by the U.S. Department of Justice. I got it on the 22nd of October, 2007. So. I'm a criminal justice major, and I'm talking about this institution because it is something that affects every American in some way. I would like to discuss the history of the American prison system. It was in the 1820s when the system that we know today began emerging, and it is a direct result of the crime and poverty levels that were visible in the cities of that time. Before the prison systems appeared, there were other forms of punishment. There were 2 dominant systems that came from this change in our way of doing things. The New York system and then the Pennsylvania system. Jailing has been used in America since the colonial days. It came over from Europe, mostly England. We took their system because that's what we knew. But it was mostly to hold people awaiting trial or to lock up debtors. It wasn't to punish anybody unless they owed money. That was the only problem that we punished people that way for. The most frequent form of punishment was the gallows, which is hanging. You know, from hangman. You played the game as kids, you know the gallows. As crime in the urban areas rose, people were desperate for a less severe punishment than death by hanging, which explains the need of the penitentiaries. Investigations in the early 19th century cities concluded that people were committing crimes because they were not being raised properly. Prior to this conclusion, people thought that you were wrong because it was just who you were. It was in your genes, human nature. When the result of the investigation claimed that drunken fathers and broken homes was causing the criminal behavior, reformers wanted something to battle this, so we changed our system. And I got a lot of this information from the American history book that Jackson State uses. It's called The Enduring Vision, A History of American People by Boyer, Clark Kent, et al., and that's published in 2005. The prison systems were popular accepted because the idea that the criminals' misdeeds in America was purged. Criminals' misdeeds should be purged was widespread within the reforming communities. The underlying thought was that people could become more obedient and law-abiding by being placed in the right environment. Now I'll discuss the system that emerged and what they were like. The New York system provided significant profits for both the business and the state because the inmates worked without pay, whereas the rehabilitation and penance of the inmates were the emphasis in the penitentiary system. I got this from an online journal article. The journal is called Issues and Controversies on File, and it was published September 2000. Strictly disciplined, the inmates did not socialize. At night, they're separated into small cells. They were not allowed to do anything but work, for free, of course. At huge property and stuff, they got a lot of stuff off of that. Go ahead and click. In the Pennsylvania system, the inmates were imprisoned in 24-hour solitary confinement with only a Bible. The idea was that they would repent and lead better lives once they were released. Initially, the reformers had a very optimistic thought, to give criminals an opportunity to change their ways. We have briefly viewed the history of the prison systems of America, what the prisons and jails were used for during the colonial times, why there was a need for another system, and what systems dominated the Reformation. Although our systems today have evolved to become more civilized and less dehumanizing. We have an ever-increasing population in our prisons. 1 in every 32 American adults. That's a lot of people. We need another way to battle crime because we cannot just lock everyone up. We need to look at our past and figure out another way to defeat crime.